working.
So I went ahead and
Okay.
started the broadcast. So now that you're on Deepak, and we'll start recording. And for the sake of posterity, who knows if anybody would actually ever want to watch this thing? But thanks for joining. I thought last week's was fairly productive. So hopefully now having you on will be infinitely more productive.
Well, hopefully.
So
Okay.
so Chris had a quick question about getting an FTP server running on the BeagleBone Black. I told him you could do it the same way you would with any Debian machine. Looks like the first recommendation I get is VS, as in very secure FTP daemon, or VS FTPD.
Okay, I can do that one. Cool, thanks.
Yeah. So apt-get that guy, and you should be happy, hopefully.
Sounds good to me.
So Deepak, I spent some time with your application, your first implementation here of PRU Speak, and it's definitely gotten a long way. It also has a long way to go.
Yeah.
It's I was able to pretty quickly switch what LED was blinking, going to from I think it was just toggling bit 0 to toggling bit 4, which comes out to pin P942.
I
And
think we
then
lost Deepak.
I was able to toggle an LED with. Oh, shoot. Yeah.
Where is he?
Spent too long trying to get to a question.
That's right. Where is he? Do
India.
you know where though?
Hyderabad, right? I believe.
I don't know. He's traveled around a bit during the project, so. You know, Alexander, is this board working okay?
I think so. Yeah, he had an issue, didn't he? But I think he sorted that out. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember he had an issue when trying to get him a replacement board. I don't know what the issue was.
Right.
Ah, he's back.
Hey, Deepak's back. No, I have.
Hello.
There we go. Just a
Got
little bit
terrible
of.
internet connection over here. Yeah, my internet's acting a bit funny. So. Hello.
Maybe just go audio and remove the video.
Yeah, I just did that.
Oh, that seems to help quite a bit.
All right. So ask your question again, Jason. Fast.
I think the question of is how soon are you going to start implementing the other functions, and it seems you also seem to understand that the timer is a real urgent need. You can't do the hard-coded delay that you've got in there. You shouldn't actually block when you do a delay from getting new messages. When are you going to implement the new
Yeah,
timer?
I'm actually working on the timer right now. So I was working on it since morning. Well, the problem I'm currently facing is to implement any new feature, I have to have a non-blocking timer, because if I have a timer that just loops along, I can't have any up call or down call interaction from the kernel. So getting the timer to work would be my #1 priority, and I'm working on it. So since today I started working on the timer. So hopefully by in another few hours I would have a basic timer example running, and then I can integrate that into PRU code and modify the weight which I have currently.
And you know how to go about doing that? You're not blocked on that?
Doesn't look like it. I've been reading the data sheets, and I think I can give it a try. let's see if it go. Let's see how it goes.
Okay.
And the immediate command execution, is that also something that's really clear to you on how to do? I think you're going to add an additional down call for sending a single script, single command. Deepak, did you get my question there? Or are you connected?
Shucks.
Wonderful. It's amazing. Oh, there he goes. And we've all turned our video off now.
Yeah. Well, I think that I was just looking through the firmware, and some of that's already in there, right? There's using the same down call. There's just a different command for a single command, right? Just in that switch case in handle down call.
I'm back. Sorry, internet is just a bit too jittery.
You might go ahead and cut off the video.
Yeah, I have cut off the video. 1 second. Just let's see.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, 1 sec. Adjust bandwidth. Limited bandwidth. Okay.
So Alex, I think that's just more a matter of terminology, because when I'm seeing the different cases within the down call, that's what I'm calling different down calls.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
I guess I didn't
Jason,
get there. Go ahead, Deepak.
we were talking. Yeah. So the single instructions I have basic up call, down call support for single instruction execution. I have a sysfs interface which can take in the byte, the Botspeak code and give to the PRU to execute. The problem currently, once again, is the timer. So I could try it out with an example where there's no wait being used, but if I have an instruction and the PRU is waiting, then the down call fails and the PRU is made to halt by the kernel code. So as of now, once I get the timer up and running, I think a couple of other things should clear out too.
Speaking of that single command down call, I see you currently have that as just one 32-bit value for the whole single command. Is that really enough for instance, setting variables? Once you consider the size of the namespace for user variables and the actual size of the variables themselves, is 32 bits enough?
Well, I haven't really for most of the instructions I've seen, 32 bits seem to do enough, because I made some rough calculations based on which I figured out how to fit almost all instructions into 32 bits. So in case I'd need more, then I'd have to modify the sysfs then. So as of now, I'm looking at 32 bits.
Yeah, I think you're wrong on that, because even if you look at the TinySpeak implementation, which I was trying to get you to look more at, there are some commands there that take 48 bits, even with the 16-bit and 8-bit opcodes.
Yeah, I did look into it, but mostly when I have a look at Botspeak, from the arithmetic to control instructions and even the IO instructions, it seemed to fit in 32 bits. So if there are like more specific instructions, I'll have to look into it, which would require more than 32 bits.
Right. I mean, my question is things like set and add and sub and mul that can take variables. You're going to have to, if you're only using 32 bits, then that the number of variables you can have in a program is going to be very limited.
On average, how many variables do you think would be used? Because I don't see huge programs being written with Botspeak. It's going to be around, say, let's limit it to say 200 lines of Botspeak code, how much would you write? So me and Panto were discussing about this. So he felt that the mostly Botspeak code is going to be limited to a few hundred lines max. So based on that, we made a few guesses. That's what I feel,
Yeah, I mean, as
because
long as you
we
have.
took into consideration.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we took into consideration the size, which seemed practical, as in a decent upper limit, and even the code space is limited to 8K, 8KB. So 32 bits uh, each instruction and 8K as of now. So I've kept everything such that it can be, it's very extensible.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you have a defined, limit to how many variables you can have. And then the other part of that question is how many bits is a variable? Is it an 8-bit value? And obviously, it can't be a 32-bit value. And Chris, what is it in the normal Botspeak definition?
The commands are, you mean just the straight command opcodes or the
No,
variables?
the variables.
The variables are in the TinySpeak. The variables are 8-bit.
Okay.
Is that right? I don't remember. I should know. I'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing with the 32-bit instructions, you're not going to be able to do more than an 8-bit value. Oh, just things to think about.
Yeah, well, I'm noting them down.
I'm still confused why the coming up with another opcode set when TinySpeak already. I mean, I get sort of aligning in 32-bit data in order to to try to make things simple. But even looking at TinySpeak, if you look at an if instruction, he's got some examples in there that are even with 8-bit opcodes. It looks like it's 64 plus 8, so 72 bits for a single if instruction. So I don't see how on earth you think you can fit it in everything into one 32-bit opcode when you're not being as efficient in the opcode space, even as TinySpeak.
Could you just paste the link in the chat box for the instructions? I'll just have a quick look at them right now.
Yeah, I mean, you should be pretty familiar with this, right? So this is the TinySpeak definition.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that one.
Well, I mean, it's also TinySpeak is that's correct, like tokenizing, whereas Dpox is more of a compiling, since it's the full instruction into a 32-bit value. So I don't know if, I mean, it looks to me like TinySpeak just by definition is, an 8-bit value per, opcode and name and attribute and everything. Just by definition, I don't think that implies necessarily that it wouldn't all fit into 32 bits.
But the tokenization that so I don't see how what you're saying that what Deepak's doing is anything different than tokenization of the strings.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at, for instance, set var3 to, what is it? We're looking at different pages. Is the table the same?
You're doing the botspeak.org page ID 158?
Yeah, okay, that's the same. Yeah, same table. That first one there, the set var3 to, oh, it's slightly different. For instance, the 2 doesn't, well, I guess it needs to be 8-bit still. Oh.
Yeah, I was doing 16 bits actually on the variables. That's why there's.
Oh, sorry, 60. Yes, it's hex. It's different in these two tables. Yeah,
what other table are you looking at?
I put the link in that.
Oh.
That's the Google sites.google.
Oh, okay. I should probably kill that site.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, the Botspeak.org is the current one, the new one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, scratch what I was saying until I've caught up on this page.
But again, I'm not sure why not to use the TinySpeak tokenization. I was hearing from Deepak that he thinks that there's some value in just going to 32 bits as opposed to sort of limiting the size. But that just seems like a less efficient use of the tokenization, because I don't know how you don't get into the same situation where these certain commands are going to take more than 32 bits. And even if he allocated 64 bits, he's going to have to think of some sort of mapping of things like this if statement. Maybe if you limit variable sizes, instead of using 16 bits to use 8 bits, but that's just somewhat of reducing functionality.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not arguing against you there. I'm just saying that it doesn't necessarily imply 32 bits won't work. For instance, in that if definition, you don't necessarily need the greater than to be 16 bits. But yeah, I mean, a pre-existing definition is definitely a nice thing.
Is greater than 16 bits there? Is that what's going on?
I assume it's the same order, but I don't know.
No, I think greater than should only be 8 bits, I believe.
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to tell from this table.
Yeah.
Where the
Okay, I can go through and clean that up. It's been a while since I've looked at this.
Okay, I think that maybe... No, that's if not. Where is... Yeah, I mean, the only thing that's changing between those... Okay, that's a not. Yeah, I'm not sure.
How are the
but
opcodes?
maybe we can try to put this into multiples of 32 bits and try to put every instruction in some sort of fixed size so that the it's a little bit easier on Karki there to manage, even if it might not be.
The reason I kept it as 32-bit is because it would be much easier to move the pointer around, and fetching the instructions would be just one particular. Well, since I'm writing it in C code, would be one line of code. So I could manage over 32, maybe not multiples of 32, but it's going to be extremely ugly. The code, it's not going to be troublesome, but the code would look ugly.
I don't think it would look ugly. It would just be your counter. Your counter would be 16-bit, mask values. If it's even, it's the high 16 bits, and if it's odd, it's the low 16 bits, or vice versa.
But you're resolving a problem that's already been solved with the interpreters that have already been written.
I mean, the other thing you can do is just stick, even just for now, to get it done quickly, is just use, pack them into 32-bit locations, the TinySpeak codes. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, I see what you're saying, because they might be greater than 32 bits.
I mean, it seems like most of these examples are greater than 32 bits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, if you're going to do another mapping, writing out a spec like this would really, really help me believe that you can actually do it. Because right now, I think you're just you're not looking at the whole problem space, and that's why you think you can fit it in 32 bits.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like TinySpeak itself could, just except for those if examples, could fit into 64 bits.
So now that I've had a chance to remember all this stuff, I mean, you could make 32-bit if you did 8. Actually, that won't work because you need the higher bits to say whether or not it's a variable or a constant. So yeah. So on the if statement, the 3C is the greater than. It's an 8-bit for the conditional. So that could probably be reduced to 4 bits, but that's about it.
Okay.
I'll just have a discussion with Wes. Is Panto coming today for the hangout?
I don't think so. I can see. I'll make sure to send him an invite. He was on this, but I haven't seen him online to say that he wanted to try to get in.
Because I just wanted to discuss with him once before, like make sure everyone's on the same page. So, well, clearly I would have to have more than 32 bits for certain instructions, but I want to make sure I'm handling it in a clean way. So maybe multiples of 32 or either way.
Or you could break the if into two instructions. So the conditional could be a variable. So a variable gets to be assigned whether or not it's greater than or equal to, and then the if just works on a variable.
Oh yeah,
Fine.
that'll work.
One more thing, how are the opcodes for TinySpeak decided? As in, is there?
I chose them based on what was easiest for me to read when debugging.
Okay, because I was trying to make something a bit. I was trying to make something a bit more serial, like opcode value 1, 2, 3, 4, so we could have some kind of a jump table.
We can definitely change TinySpeak. It just makes the code then that. So the original goal with TinySpeak is that people could actually read the Arduino code that it was in and actually understand it. As soon as you start getting to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's a lot harder to read. That's why.
So the way that Deepak is looking at implementing this is he's actually planning on putting a network socket interface, and the network socket would translate from the string commands into his opcodes.
Right.
Yeah, internally. That would all be non-transparent to the user, as in the user just thinks it is a Botspeak interpreter, and internally I just.
So my argument would be that there's going to be multiple different types of users. So I would agree with you that most users will be doing exactly what you say, but hopefully there will be a number of power users that will be actually looking at your code down on the PRU and would be messing around with it. So that would be the only advantage of making that code as legible as possible.
Yeah, I agree.
But that being said, I mean, just having a quick lookup table difference between TinySpeak and what you implement, or just changing TinySpeak to 1, 2, 3, 4, we could definitely do.
Well, now, Chris, didn't you say that TinySpeak, or someone said that TinySpeak is actually smaller than Botspeak?
Right.
Functionality-wise. So there wouldn't really currently be a one-to-one mapping that.
So that was, the discussion of one of the discussion items of last week is this question of should we get rid of TinySpeak, because Botspeak has some inherent niceties in terms of being able to switch between integers and floating point, not having to worry about the 14 bits that were allowed for variables, for constants, and so on. It just removes all of those issues and makes them platform dependent, I guess.
Right. So
that was why I was voting for maybe we should just, in the case of the Arduino, have the Arduino actually interpret the ASCII, and it just won't work on a launchpad.
Right.
So Deepak, though, I'd really just encourage you to take the action of whatever your mapping is, write it down, the complete spec for all of the commands before you keep going forward with your code.
Yeah, sure.
All of them.
Yeah, once I'm done with the timer today or tomorrow, I'll be doing that, because the timer is going to be necessary anyway. So I'm working on that right now. I'll just quickly finish that, and once I know the timer's working, I'll bring down a spec. So based on that, once again, we can talk to Panto and just solidify things, and from there carry on.
Do you want to just have me open up space on the botspeak.org and you can just add directly to that?
I
Or
think it'd be wise to add it after we have a working prototype of the whole Botspeak language. So as of now, I'm working on like a few commands. I'll be working on PWM and inputs next. So once that's done, I think we'll have something to show.
Okay. We were also thinking, Deepak, of adding one more Botspeak command, which is called tone, which is like PWM, except that it varies the, instead of varying the duty cycle at a given frequency, it has a constant duty cycle but variable frequency.
Oh, okay.
But that's just to keep you updated.
And is that a constant relative duty? That's a relative duty cycle, like 50% or something like that, not
Correct.
not pulse width, right?
No, it's 50%, and
Yeah.
then you vary the frequency and duration.
Right. The other new issue that going back to the single command execute and script execute, right? I want to make sure that the architecture that we're working on here, where currently there's this interpreter in between that's doing the tokenizing. The script command and the end script command would essentially all be implemented within the tokenizer and not on the target device. And I'm trying to figure out if that's going to be an issue or not, because is there ever a time where you're going to have more than one script loaded or anything like that? So there's or any other reason why this might be an issue, because essentially the way Deepak is going about this is script and in-script is just the work of the tokenizer, and otherwise you have two interfaces. One is an immediate command and the other one is run script. Is that right, Deepak? Do you have anything to add to?
No, that seems right. Yeah.
But can I run an immediate command while a script is running, i.e., changing a variable value that the script uses?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, it just means that what's running on the PRU is not actually the complete Botspeak interpreter. The Botspeak interpreter is made up of the PRU and the kernel driver. I don't see any reason that's necessarily a bad thing or limiting.
Well, and the user space tokenizer, right? So there's the kernel driver.
Yeah, I don't like that part personally. I think that the since one of the goals of this is ease of sort of user space library writing and support writing, I feel that all the tokenizing should be done by the kernel driver. So really, just you load the Botspeak string by writing it to a file, for instance, with a sysfs interface, and the tokenizing is then done by the driver.
Well, in this case, you're writing it to a socket, right? So,
well, I think
the interface.
I think that what Alex is asking for, and I think this makes a lot of sense, is not making it a socket, but actually making it a device node that's got a stream sort of interface.
Yeah, if I can go to a screen share, yes.
And then what? You'd read the file as often as possible to get the reply for the individual Botspeak replies.
Yeah. So
I mean, you could just leave that file open, right, and wait on it whenever you want to try to get responses. I would expect, just like you would a serial port.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you guys see this file here?
This is where it was a bad idea using my phone.
Oh, does screen share not work?
Oh, it works. Just my eyes aren't that good anymore.
Oh, let's see if I get bigger.
Ah, thank you.
So the idea being that you're just opening a file, writing a single command to it, and then reading back the response. There might be some timing issues between writing and reading, but that's the idea. And then for running a script, it would be ideal, I guess, for the kernel driver in that case to split on the line breaks. But there's no reason that couldn't be required of the user space implementation.
Wouldn't it be easier to just expose a serial port in this case rather than have a CSFS file if that's what it is?
Well, what's nice about this is that it then there's command line support very simply because you're just echoing into a file. It's also going to be guaranteed support for pretty much any language, whereas there might be some languages out there people want to use that don't necessarily have socket support.
I meant a serial port, a kernel interface.
Right. Serial support.
So maybe dev/PRU speak and
Yeah.
that would be a cleaner interface.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any reason that would be limiting in any way. Yeah, I mean, it would be the same idea, right? You'd be writing the command strings in regular Botspeak to a file or a serial port or whatever.
Now we're pretty comfortable with solving this at some later point, right? Because if he continues with this, he's got his Python tokenizer. Moving that into the kernel is not going to be so hard, right? I mean, I think I think I could do that towards the end of the project if we run out of time. I'm definitely starting. I'm more worried about making sure we have the pulse width modulation, the analog reads, all the other things that are accessing these peripherals that still haven't yet been debugged, right? Because the only thing we've got right now is digital I/O, and no variable support, no branching, all those other things that are complex within the interpreter.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, you do have unconditional branching, but I gotta implement the if statements and whatnot.
Right. So it's all the conditionals and variables.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, as long as that makes sense, that interface.
Well, Deepak, what questions can we answer for you? I think I've tried to poke enough holes in some things to try to uncover some issues, but what are things that are on your mind that you need help on, or that you have questions about, or how this might be used?
Well, one of the things was the execute script part. So while a particular, let's say, script A is executing, so does Chris want to just execute, like, say, one statement which manipulates variables, or maybe changes the I/O status, or would you want to parallelly run another small script? So that's one thing that kept popping into my head. So would you want to run two scripts in parallel at all, or would it be, well, you're running one script and another, you just stream single commands now and then to change variable values?
Since you have two PRUs, I would suggest that each PRU just runs one script. If you want to do parallelism, just do it across the two PRUs.
Okay, so one of the PRUs is going to be used for the real-time stuff. So, for example, PWM is going to be implemented on one of the PRUs. So I don't think that'll be available for executing bot script as such.
Wait, you mean you're going to be bit banging PWM? It's going to be software?
Yeah, that's how Bantu wanted it.
Why not use the module?
I asked him that. He didn't want it to be so.
Okay, I guess we'll have to talk with him about that. Yeah. But what was I going to say?
Yeah, I mean,
Oh yeah,
I would think
Chris,
it would have more
is it
value.
defined? Oh,
Sorry, what?
sounds like we're getting delay issues here. But is the behavior defined in Botspeak when a script is running and you send it another script command? What happens in that case?
It should cancel the running. Well, so in Botspeak, the way we run it, the script command doesn't actually run the script. The script command downloads the script. So you can download a script while another script is running. It's when you hit run script that it will stop one script from running and start the next script.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you should make sure that will work, Deepak, because you don't want to you don't want to start overwriting the currently running script, of course, until you've loaded the whole script.
Yeah, sure. I've been preparing for that. I've even made sysfs attributes for aborting the current script. So I knew I'd be doing this at some point of time, maybe this week. So that thing's ready. I have to implement. I have to mix and match with start script and end script and run script. So I have a abort sysfs attribute working. So yeah, I was preparing for that.
Oh, I had one other.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks. I had one other concern, which was, or well, I don't know, question, comment. In Botspeak, well, I guess just generally floating point versus fixed point, or integer. It looks like you are using integers currently, Deepak, in that
Yeah.
example. Are you planning to use floating point for things like weight?
Well, yeah, I do plan on giving floating point support. Once I get stuff with the integers working completely, I've talked to Panto about this once. We still have to finalize things on how to handle floating point, but yeah, I put it down on my to-do list and we've been discussing it with, I did discuss it about a week ago with Panto. So, but we haven't finalized anything about the floating points.
Is it actually required? For example, if you made weight take millisecond values instead of second values, or even microsecond values, would there be any need for floating point elsewhere?
I don't know. I think that's up to Chris.
So TinySpeak does not do floating point. It does exactly, Alexander, what you just said. It does. There's two different weights. There's the capital W, which does it in milliseconds, and the small w, which does it in microseconds.
Okay, yeah. Of course, that's if we're going full Botspeak to something tokenized, then
Exactly.
yeah.
I mean, full floating point would be certainly very nice.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, as long as you can figure out how to implement that, of course.
All right, guys, unfortunately, I have to go to my next meeting. So do we want to schedule the next time we talk, or?
Does this time work for everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see if we can't get Pentelis next week, but we'll schedule it for the same time next week.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Sounds good. Sorry, I got to run.
Thank you all.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Okay.
Deepak. Thank you.
See ya.
Yeah, sure. Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.